And to all of you, do you remember in the eulogy that I gave at the beginning of the service, I mentioned an encounter with the families back in the early days, and said I wouldn't say too much more about it. And then I mentioned another one later about a second encounter. Those encounters, when you put them all together, some people would say it was fate. But it started started with my father being a school teacher and had a friend, school teacher from Catasauqua, and his name was Ralph Brown. And then the Second World War started, and things got rough. There was food rationing. Well, my dad and mother and I lived on a farm with my grandparents, my father's parents. And we had lots of food. We raised potatoes, we had chickens, we harvested eggs, we harvested sweet corn in the summer from big gardens that we had. So people would come by. We never ran a farm stand, but people would come by and pick up food. And Ralph Brown and his wife did that from time to time. And then one time, along about 43 or 4 maybe, they brought their friends, Ralph and Emily Schlicker, along. And Ralph and Emily Schlicker brought their 2 kids along, a boy and a girl. Well, I was about maybe 8, 9, or I was probably about 9 or 10 at the time. And the little girl was 6 or 7. She recounted later that I chased her around the barn with a dead rat, which is entirely likely, because I could be a mischievous kid at that age, and we did have a rat problem on the farm. So that part was true, but that was just a chance encounter, and then things progressed, and we both wound up in school. She in Catasauqua, and I in I was in North Whitehall. But by the time I got to seventh grade, I was in South Whitehall schools, and Janet was in Catasauqua school. We were both in bands, school bands, and the South Whitehall school band would march in parades, especially at Halloween time. We were at a parade in Catasauqua, and at the end of the parade, students would all gather around waiting for their bus to take them back to the school or wherever. I was standing on a street corner, I looked across the street to the opposite corner, and there's a good-looking gal standing there with a saxophone. I nudged my buddy next to me, Dave, and I said, "Hey, Dave, look at that gal over there." And he took a look, and he says, "Oh, that's my cousin." Well, that still didn't register on me. His name was Dave Wenner. So the name Wenner, that's the first I'd heard that name, but didn't really register. Then we fast forward to college, and Janet's in Allentown Hospital School of Nursing. I'm in Lehigh. And at one point I was dating a girl from East Allentown. Her name was Roberta White. And she lived with her sister, Joan, who was married to a guy named Fritz, and his name was Fritz Wenner. I still didn't understand the connection. That dating sequence never really went anywhere, and we parted peaceably. Then I guess it was after my sophomore year at Lehigh, I was on a co-op program with Pennsylvania Power and Light for the summer, and they paired me up with a substation repair crew, which turned out to be a one-man show with a pickup truck. But he would tour all the substations in, Allentown, Lehigh Valley area, and even north. His name was Clint Winter. Again, the Winter name is popping up. And then finally, probably near my senior year, Jan was still completing her nurse's training at Allentown Hospital, and they had a habit of running dances about monthly, and they would invite open invitations to Muhlenberg, Lehigh, and Lafayette, which were in the area, and all male schools. So their guys would come to the dances at the School of Nursing. And I did, and I chose this one gal to have a dance, and we started dancing, and I don't know if I said it or she said it, but the word was, "Hey, I remember you," or "I know you." Well, that was the beginning that led to our dating, and eventually, after her graduation and her starting her nursing career, we got engaged at Christmas of 1956. And now it's beginning to dawn on me. Her parents, her mother was a Winter. Turns out the Winters, Jan's mother had like 12 or 13 brothers and sisters, and they were widely scattered. Well, not widely, they were all scattered around the Lehigh Valley area, and a lot of them right in Catasauqua. And it turned out that Fritz Winter was her cousin, the girl that I met through, or the guy I met through a girlfriend, Roberta. Clint Winter, that I met through my PP&L experience, was her uncle. So you're beginning to get the picture. And of course, her mother, after that meeting at the nurses' stands, there came a point when Jan was they were having a prom, and she didn't have a date for the prom. And her mother said, "Why don't you call Fred Meckley?" Yep. She did, and by now I recognized her. We got together, and that one thing led to another, and then we finally got engaged in December of '56 and married in '57. But the Winter family had 31 first cousins, and I don't forget how many aunts and uncles. There's Alan with a question.
Yeah, Fred, what musical instruments did you play, you and Jan?
I played clarinet,
Okay.
and she played saxophone.
I hadn't played it.
Yeah. But the Winter family had a tradition of a family reunion every summer, and started in 1933, and they're still at it. They have a family association, and my daughter Debbie is the secretary of that association now. So she has the family history book with all the people listed in it. And the family is large, so chance encounters, fate, I don't know, but it seems like Jan and I were destined to be together. And I'm thankful for it.
We are too. Down there. Well, I told my call down there.